Welcome, everyone. We are Veronica Murphy
and Walter Ritter of Write Out Loud. We're glad you've joined us for tonight's San Diego 2021 NEA Big Read, Read, Imagine, Create Student Awards event produced by Write Out Loud.
in partnership with the San Diego Public Library and educators from public and private schools across the county.
This program is funded by the National Endowment for the Arts in partnership with Arts Midwest, the City of San Diego's Commission for Arts and Culture, the County of San Diego's Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund, the Community Service Association of the San Diego Unified School District, and many generous donors. We thank you all.
This year's book, The Essential Emily Dickinson, selected and with an introduction by Joyce Carol Oates, is obviously a collection of Miss Dickinson's poems.
This evening, we celebrate the many young people aged 8 through 19 who read the poetry and created a personal expression inspired by one or more of Emily Dickinson's poems.
We open our program with San Diego's first poet laureate, Ron Salisbury. Mr. Salisbury has a degree from Antioch University and 3 master's degrees, one each from Antioch University, Mills College, and San Diego State University. Mr. Salisbury became passionate about poetry in about the 7th grade, so it seems appropriate for him to speak to our young people today. Please join us in welcoming San Diego's first poet laureate, Ron Salisbury.
Welcome here. I'm excited to hear all of your work, and I'm excited about the book that you have been assigned and about Emily Dickinson. The two scions, the two ancestors of American poetry are generally recognized as Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson. And they both lived at the same time, the mid to the late 1800s. Walt had some recognition in his lifetime, and Emily none. 7 of her poems were published during her lifetime. Her name was not put on those poems, and they were revised and seriously edited by the publisher. And Emily backed off from publishing. Although in letters to her family and to her friends, she revealed probably at least 200 of the 1,775 poems that we have of hers that was discovered by her sister Lavernia after she died in 1886. Her poems were then divided between 2 people, and they were small publications of her poems all the way through till the 1930s, but they were given a little recognition. And this was probably because her poems continued to be edited and revised by others. Her capitalizations and dashes, and sometimes her syntax, was corrected by others. Until 1955, when her literary estate was delivered to Harvard University, when her poems, exactly as she wrote, were published. Her poems that we see today, their look, their feel, their taste, unedited. That's what we have, thankfully, today. And I feel that this was exactly the right time for her to be introduced to us with the way that she wrote her poems. This was after World War II, and poetry in the United States was breaking out of all bounds. The poet was becoming always the narrator in poems. The life of the poet became central to the poem, and this had not been for decades before. The life of the poet was not to be considered in the poems, and this all changed after World War II. It was the right time for Emily's poems to be recognized. It seems so amazing that 80 years after her death, 100 years after some of her best poems, that this was the time that was right for her. This was how far in front her writing was. And it took up until the 60s for her to gain a lot of popularity, for the poetry world to catch up to what Emily did long ago. And even today, we are amazed at the almost graphic nature of her poems, the pauses, the capitalizations for emphasis, the dashes, the wonderful syntax at times, and most important, the view of the world of that poet who was often thought of as a recluse. But her view was expansive. There were no horizons because in her mind there was no horizons. Now this book, the one that you have, The Essential Dickinson by Joyce Carol Oates, contains some of the best poems. Be inspired by them, study them. Be inspired by the interior view Emily had of nature, the self, the limits, and the unlimits of life. And be amazed that she lived and wrote these 150 years ago, and it could have been last month's poetry journal that they were in. They are that contemporary even today. I'm excited to hear your work, and I can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salisbury. Write Out Loud distributed 3,000 copies of The Essential Emily Dickinson to students who were encouraged to create their own expressions inspired by the poetry in visual, literary, media, or performance art. Professionals from each category were asked to review all the entries and select their favorites based on imagination and interpretation more than on technical expertise.
This event is dedicated to presenting these creations for all of you to see and for celebrating the young creators. Typically, we would have this event in a theater with everyone live, and we would be able to see the faces of the young artists. But this year, as was the case in 2020, we are providing the event in a virtual format. In the interest of time, some longer of the literary entries will not be presented in their complete form, but they will be available on our website beginning tomorrow.
Cash prizes and certificates for the top 3 entries in each category will be mailed to the winning students, as will special recognition certificates. Let's see what these young people have created, shall we?
Hi, my name is Stephen Lone. This first piece I'll be reading is entitled We Must Fail to Rise by Luke Schneider, age 13. Most people don't reach success, not because of failure. Most people don't move on, not because of failure. Most people never experience failure because they give up. They surrender. People ask me, what's the difference between success and failure? You don't always get what you want. Being right doesn't mean you'll win. Being the first to finish doesn't mean you're the best or above all. Successful people fail a whole lot more than they succeed. Failure will make you give up. Failure will make you feel worthless. Isn't it your fault that you lack the attitude to stand strong and to persevere beyond those rough times? Not just for yourself, but as a model to your family, your children, your country, your state, your nation, your world. You will never succeed until you've failed. On April 26, 2003, Aaron Ralston faced the greatest challenge of his adventure-packed life. He amputated his arm to free it from an 800-pound boulder in a Utah canyon. Born in 1987, world-renowned neurosurgeon Dr. Quiñones Hinojosa started out as a poor boy from Mexico working on farms outside of Fresno, California, treated differently because of his ethnicity. Luis Zamperini was an American distance runner working his way to the Olympics only to be captured tortured and starved almost to death by the Japanese army in World War II. And while people around started giving up, while people surrendered and believed it was the end for them, while people believed they would get nowhere in life, these men had faith. They had faith in themselves. They had faith in others. Yet they had no reason to be at more risk than anyone else. But what's different? You ask, what's so special? Why were they fortunate to live when others weren't? What separates them? I'll tell you. They never gave up. They failed, they learned, and they never gave up. You see, people don't care what you say or what you do. People only care about themselves. People will act like you're not there and could care less. But that's when you rise to the challenge. Because then it's your time, your moment. And you're not going to let anyone take that from you, no matter your past. Now, you might have been wronged before, but now you stand. You might have been told that you aren't good enough, that you won't make it, yet you still stand. Why? Oh, you can't do this, whether it be for the color of your skin or what others think of you. You know why? You're better. You're better than all those who hated, all those who said you were worthless or couldn't live up to your name. You stood because you knew that if others think you're failing, you'll succeed. You stood for yourself. You stood for what's right. You stood determined, purposely. You stood motivating, encouraging, urging others to do what you did, not just for today, tomorrow, a week, not a year, not 10 years, not 100, not even 1,000. You stood as leader forever, providing, inspiring, and empowering for others, because that's what leaders do. Failure to succeed as leader, you fail to learn and improve. Great leaders help people to grow. Leaders help themselves and others do the right things and will always stand for what's right. They set a direction, building and inspiring a vision. Leaders don't stand for one nation, they stand for everything. You don't always have to succeed. You don't always have to fail. Don't give up. Don't surrender. Success is counted sweetest.
Hi, I'm Lilith Freund. I'll be reading a special recognition piece by Rowan Seth. She wanders the garden, taking note of everything Mother Nature has to offer. Plants receive their virtual rain, and she follows the story of her life. A simple one it is. The lone house directing the flowing plains below. Grass wisps and autumn leaves in the wind, brushing the scenery with color. She takes a mental note, remembering it for later. Gracefully and femininely walks, drifts past her beautiful surroundings, wondering and imagining what could go wrong for a pure maiden such as her. Like a storm, breaking loose of its cloudy chains in the sky, death, demise, dread for who will be next. Maybe even her. Her plants run dry, she stands alone in a rebellion. Going against the wind of her storm, she goes on with her life story. But it will never be in the same form. Like arrows, her sorrows pierced her where she was most vulnerable. Tragedy is a master archer. Each shot hits. And her plants crisped from the lack of water they cherished, and she is caught up in a cruel fit of what history has in store for her. And she saw the end getting near, and her sickness and sorrow worsened. Her beautiful poetry about nature turning as black and twisted as a lightning-struck tree. Her parish becoming clear, her cruel fate stung like a bee. She ascended, her story to be forever amended to the sky above in the heavens.
Oh, that girl, she takes my breath away. Yeah, she loves the flowers and maybe the showers of the rain. She sits in a room all day just writing away. She must have so much to say with her life all packed away. But today, oh, she wrote her poems in a lovely way, a way that could get her famous one day. And I know it'll happen for her. She can tell you what she feels through a poem. Oh, they're so descriptive, yeah, the way they're written. Oh, her poem's so perfect, and no one will ever know it. Cause she won't publish them, even though her writing's worth a gem. But oh, she wrote her poems in a lovely way, a way that could get her famous someday. And I just know it'll happen for her. Oh, I don't know what to do. Oh, she's just there with
I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd advertise, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog, to tell one's name the livelong June to an admiring bog.
This piece was selected for special recognition and is written by 11-year-old Colvin Davis. A fork up ahead. I take a morning stroll. A fork up ahead. One path light and bright, the other dark and dreary. I walk a little further, examining the paths, and to my great surprise, the dark path at the end reveals a chest of gleaming treasure. I look back down the bright path. No treasure to be seen. My brain, a twisted knot that cannot be undone. I don't know which path to take, the bright or the dark. The treasure gleams from a distance, lighting the dark in magical luminance. I can't stand to think anymore. I start down the dark path. I get to the treasure and look inside, full of gold coins and jewels. I pick some up and hold them. But bliss does not arrive. Something inside me is telling me I have chosen incorrectly. A feeling of being weighed down, of feeling of choosing unwisely. I walk slowly back down the path, darker than it used to be. I come back to the fork, this time choosing the bright path. A second chance, a different path, and still another day.
The judges have told us how very difficult it is to make these decisions, and I have to agree. What the students come up with is astonishing, astounding, never ceases to amaze me. And I have the great honor each year of making the selection for the Artistic Director's Choice Award, which usually means picking an entry that catches my eye or my ear, as all of the things are submitted, and this year was no exception. I am so pleased to announce the Artistic Director's Choice, titled The Transitions of Life, created by 12-year-old Celia Zdanowski.
Hope is the thing with feathers. Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Split the lark, Emily Dickinson. Split the lark, and you'll find the music, bulb after bulb in silver rolled, scantily dealt to the summer morning, saved for your ear when lutes be old. Loose the flood, you shall find it patent, gush after gush reserved for you. Scarlet experiment, septic Thomas. Now, do you doubt that your bird was true? What soft, cherubic creatures, Emily Dickinson. What soft, cherubic creatures these gentlewomen are, or one would as soon as assault a plush or violate a star. Such dimity convictions a whore so refined, of freckled human nature, of deity, ashamed. It's such a common glory, a fisherman's degree, redemption, brittle lady, be so ashamed of thee.
It is with great pleasure that I'd like to present a piece selected for special recognition by 15-year-old Brittany Holden. Oh, Missy. I once strode along a rotten dock with withered boards that creaked neath my feet. And the day those boards wailed with a stormy sky, I met an old man with a tale that never died. He stared out toward the sea that roared and swelled. A striped tabby never left his side, not when the tide swelled, nor when the sky cried. But the man was utterly alone. My footsteps echoed and were swallowed by the sea, yet he turned and stared right at me. The old man, whose eyes matched the sky, spoke in a grisly voice and told me no lie. Son, he told me, I lived a long time, but I never truly lived. You see that there boat? Oh, Missy. For her, you'll never see me gloat. I worked long and hard for old Missy because she was my freedom. She was to bring me joy. But now that I have her, nothing more than a toy. My knees are too weak and my hands too stiff to ever sail in a boat so swift. Son, you got years, or so you think. But don't let death teach you of life, because you never know which is your last breath. Don't let the cage teach you of the sky, because it's real grand. And don't be an old man that must teach the misunderstood to live their lives like you never could. Now the old man turned and walked from the sea. And there sat old Missy. Something that could never be.
This piece is entitled Ode to My Brain by Ryan Limon, age 16. Oh, how you are endless kerosene for my creative flame, yet burden me with faulted genes, taint my seed and prevent my next fruition. Oh, how you carve me in two. A Talia to match my Melpomene, a Janus never to be one. Oh, how you divide me from reality with your fox deception, truth versus lie, a greater distance between the two than the gloomy ocean and the stupor sky. Oh, how you make me a child of fire and water, always boiling my frigid soul, searing cold, I eternally wish to diminish. Oh, how the scales tip ever in your favor, never in mine. You forever bear ruthlessness, reign merciless in unforgivable crime. Oh, how you invite others into my head to dictate, reprimand, insist on what is said in what once was my own, now makes me alone. Oh, how you force my hand to shove solid joy down my throat, one by one, minuscule monsters that flatten me like roadkill destined, deserving to die. Oh, how you make my thoughts a marathon and give a plethora of newly blossomed ideas, books, poems, movies, plays, never to be shown, only concealed by my own. Oh, how you make me witness the moon burn to sun, sacrificing hours of somnolence, my only sanctuary from you and the cruelty of the earth, sometimes. Because you make my dreams, thoughts, a painting come to life, vivid and surreal, yet gruesome and appalling, never to tell from locked lips, sealed. Oh, how you make the leaves of my problems blow away. Like on a windy winter's day, tranquility and power, destined only for me, given by you, makes me frivolous beyond compare. Oh, how you make me bet a coin and gamble it all on life's roulette to take a chance and never succeed. Oh, how you accompany me, embrace me, strangle me, my only confidant, when I huddle in the corners of my mind and hide from the horrors of my life. Thank you for your companionship, my old friend. Until the darkness, your darkness, becomes solely mine again.
Hi, my name is Rachel Van Warmer. I'm the education coordinator for Write Out Loud. This was selected for special recognition. I am my poems are myself, an excerpt by Koa Barton, age 13. I looked up from my herbarium to the icy window in front of me, each small snowflake falling from the now dusking sky with an intricate pattern like lace upon a wooden picnic table. It was snowing outside, a blizzard to be specific. I watched as the icicles hanging from my windowsill snapped due to the strong gusts of wind. I longed for spring, the fresh, warm air, and beautiful blooming rosebuds. I pulled my eyes away from the window, directing them towards my herbarium again, my fingers quivering as I gently lifted its delicate pages. As I observed the pressed jasmine, my memory flashed to the wonderful sun and green grass of spring when the heavy snow of winter finally would melt away and reveal the beautiful colors of nature. Staring at the window, I felt myself being pulled farther and farther away from the warm sun as the blizzard continued on. Winter. It had a lingering feeling of grief and coldness that fell upon me like a white sheet, submerging me in a feeling of longing for a season that had already passed. I didn't like that feeling, grief, sadness, nostalgia for last summer. I wondered what the flowers of November felt when winter rolled around after all. The sweet sounds of Christmas time must sound more like a death omen to them. Their beautiful colors fade as winter proceeds until they are nothing but scattered seeds dispersed among the frozen soil like ashes from an urn. Death. It must welcome the dying flowers kindly, waving to them invisibly from across the meadow, from where their roots dig into the soil, inviting their souls to join him in a carriage to the heavens. I looked at my pressed flowers on a page I had not yet placed into my herbarium. Flowers, their beauty and grace, their fertile aspects, their beauty to all, and their ability to name nature as a natural perfection on earth. In some ways, they have the ability to satisfy the everlasting necessities of humans. No matter how fatigued or melancholic one feels, the beauty of a flower can make any feeling of sadness melt away like snow under the hot sun. Although flowers are lost, for they cannot move. In the minds of humans, they are like free souls wandering in an abyss of pureness, waving in the wind under the warm sun, free of all grotesque features in a natural being. Yet, in reality, they are trapped in the same place till death, never moving, always planted in the same place. I can only wonder how the souls of flowers see the world, but I imagine it harsh and aggravating. Women, the flowers of society, except they can only bend in the wind like a flower, never changing or advancing in their lawful rights. And if they tried, they would snap like a stem being picked from the soil of earth, until death takes women and flowers from this world. They are forever trapped, stolen of freedom to move and break free from the chains binding them to the discriminating and unequal world. As I lingered upon the thought of death taking a flower's life during winter time, I realized that death was more of a soul itself, a kind gentleman doing his job of keeping the world equal in the species of the human. Death seemed more of a male figure than a female. Death represented perishing life, darkness, and absence. Meanwhile, nature seemed to be apparent to the world, beautiful and motherly. It was evident that during the winter, the flowers faced death and joined him to embark on their journey to the afterlife. They dispersed their seeds into the frozen soil, and before the snow covered them completely, their souls left their sessile bodies to join death himself.
They shut me up in prose, as when a little girl. They put me in the closet, because they like me still. I dwell in possibility, a fairer house than prose, more numerous of windows, superior for doors. I felt a funeral in my brain, and mourners to and fro, kept treading till it seemed that sense was breaking through.
I'll be reading the second prize in literature by Sylvia Davis. There are so many things in my mind that I cannot quite yet reach, which within I try to reach in every evening hour. I see my thoughts twinkling in every crisp black sky. In one starry night, I saw an idea in the darkness. So I stayed up all night long, still my thoughts above my eyes. When moon started to sink, ready for sun to take its turn, I raced to descending moon just before it disappeared. I leapt on moon and waited for its next turn to rise.
There is a certain slant of light, winter afternoons, that oppresses like the heft of cathedral tunes. Heavenly hurt it gives us, we can find no scar, but internal difference where the meanings are. None may teach it any, 'tis the seal despair, an imperial affliction sent us of the air. When it comes the landscape listens, shadows hold their breath. When it goes, 'tis like the distance on the look of death.
I can wait in grief, whole pools of it. I'm used to that. But the least push of joy breaks up my feet, and I tip, drunken. Let no pebble smile. 'Twas the new liquor, that was all. Power is only pain, stranded through discipline, till weights will hang. Give balm to giants, and they'll wilt like men. Give Himalaya, they'll carry him.
I am nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog. To tell your name the livelong June to one admiring bog.
Wild nights, wild nights, were I with thee, wild nights should be our luxury. Futile the winds to a heart in port, done with the compass, done with the chart. Rowing in Eden, the sea, might I but more tonight in thee.
First place in literature. Dearest Death, Our Final Tryst, by Oona Norvell, age 12. My dearest, life, like thread, is so easily cut, and you carry the shears. No prayer will cease your doing, no epistle for which you'll reflect. We balance upon your sensitivity, such a narrow beam to balance, and so many stumble, so many fall. And like flames, your fury erupts, and like a daffodil in the wind, their lives are taken. Oh, to ignite the wild fire of your temper with Pompeii, its kith to kin, to snip the thread where I have held on to for so long, to meet those which I've left in the grave. I plead to you now, in this letter of despondency to release the wounded soul of this child and let her reunite with the loved ones you have stolen. Whether in heaven or hell, my frozen heart will thaw at last. Many know not of a frozen heart's comfort, as many have not been greeted by the frosty spirit of death. Oh, death, what beguiling charm you must have displayed when you entered my home and imprisoned my mother and father. What cunning courtesy you must have used to enter the bosom of a woman whose love was fastened shut by the tragedies of your doing. What callous thoughts you must have contemplated when you took Gib. What a merciless spirit you must have possessed to leave my heart abandoned and cold, frozen. However, I still seek your company for our dreary and terminal tryst. After all, before one can confabulate with immortality, she must chorus with death. Tonight, we're a choir with the final note of our funereal melody. The novelties of my poetic locution is everlasting. Finally, I can let go of the thread, as my immortality lasts only within the love I've left on earth. Poetry. Austin, Lavinia, and Susie shall meet me tomorrow in the fair gardens of Eden. And you and I will suppress our lust in the grave which I am buried. For immortality, like a snowflake, is a frail beauty none can touch. So long as we see the sun rise, you know of me, and with the final ray of its set, I know of you. Till my final breath, Emily.
The winter snow and ivory glow. Haunted was a river, rigid frost at the cost of life, God's opus. Rose bushes barren, remaining only thorns. Death grasps their final beauty. Trust for that, one mourns. Painfully I await spring's delayed arrival to lay a juvenile again with buds of the departed.
Time, what glorious entity you bound. Bloom many as you stride past lives of copious worlds, beyond eternity, behind forgotten. Tally your hours of nothing, now gone, muffled in regret. My youth isolates. Halt, and might I remember? Might I roam free? Without you, infinite possibility. With you, I'm lost in your brief moments. I stand with my eyes and mind. Brief moments, all tribute, eternally.
Oh, to speak the tongue of lovers. A language perplexes all but those who surround the husk of life's sweetest fruit. Try to learn it, many, a yearning of the soul to speak and recognize another's love, to have control. True love will never understand another's joy and grief, but will grasp the rope of life until cut and fall. Yet, sympathy for those who speak it, those poor, somber few, who can never love another the way that lovers do.
We'll be dead by sunrise, all of us, in concert, lamenting loss of oneself, cursing those not hurt. Not enough to sell the ocean, not enough to climb the sky. All claim earth for himself. He's amused for a single night. Once earth falls, desolate, once nature's bare, couldn't be fault, not ours. 'Twas Satan's game unfair. O Lord, forgive me plenty for whatever sins you oppose. Foreseeable? True. I've done but any. But too late when the sun has rose.
Oh, butterfly, what beauty awaits! The gaze which rests upon you, enchanting glow and flutter, grasps a victim's rationality. Desire is no friend of mine, nor is he of yours. My life, shaped by publicity. As for you, they take it.
I dance in Babylonia. When moon meets the stars, I swing through the foliage. I speak with kings. And to the sun, we fly. Each night ensuring her arrival, frolicking in her light, a pleasure earth deprives. But, oh, too soon, she walks away to interrupt my dawdling mind, to put inspiration to a rest I return to hell I've left behind.
I'd forgotten who I was for a minute or two. No one recollects. I stood in solitude. The world faded black, white. My vision, yet alike, saw only cheer. None which I retained, but matter no, with heart's next pulse. Sallow. Ha! No words escape a pounding of the mind. Parting with tears, joy, the darkness left me. Blind, crumbling, I reached for heaven before hail could hail me home. But in lieu, grasped was a hand familiar, hold of one, friend.
Hope is a thing with person called me. And I've learned that without pain, no one feels the need to fight. And I've found out that hope is why that little bird takes flight. Oh, what a sight to see it fly, oh fly. 'Cause hope's always there for you when you need it most. It might not be standing next to you, but it's always in your soul. It'll climb the tallest mountain and swim the largest sea just to be with me, to be with me. Who won't break me and betray me, who will wait for me and save me, who will sing a song and heal me, who will fly the world to see me, who will sail the seas, who will touch the stars, who will walk the world so we're not apart, so we're not apart. Hope is a thing with feathers, it soars inside the soul and sings a tune without the words and never stops at all. It never stops at all. Don't ever stop at all.
We want to thank the NEA Big Read, Arts Midwest, and all of our donors and judges and participating educators. A huge thank you to our education coordinator, Rachel Van Warmer, and to the San Diego Public Library. And thank you all for being here with us and supporting these young students. A link to this event, as well as links to the complete recordings of the literary, media, and performance presentations you saw tonight, and a gallery of all the visual art that we received, are on our website at www.writeoutloudsd.com. I also wanted to mention that Saturday, the 24th of April, is the virtual presentation of the San Diego Student Shakespeare Festival, produced by Write Out Loud in association with the San Diego Shakespeare Society. That will be on our website, and we hope you will check it out at 11 o'clock on Saturday the 24th.
One last thing. Write Out Loud is providing short story recordings by professional actors every day but Sunday. And beginning tomorrow, we'll be featuring creations by some of our students. If you're interested in receiving these via email, please sign up for Listen to This in our website. Again, writeoutloudsd.com.
Thank you all so much.